It's not by accident. But Israel has a PhD in deception. Because it's Dajjal at the back of this, the mastermind. And Israel would not want to wage a big war and appear to the world naked, clearly as an aggressor. No, that's not deception. Israel has to wage her big war and make it appear as though she was only defending herself. The only Muslim I know of who has had the capacity to be able to penetrate the deception that has been going on all these years, the only one I know of, was a man who never went to Al-Azhar University. Now, he wasn't a sheikh. His name was Malcolm X. He's the only man I know of who had that eyes wish to see and could clearly recognize the strategy and the deception. Read Malcolm X. How is Israel going to launch this big war and yet get away from being perceived by the whole of humanity as the aggressor, blatant aggression? You have to come with a good strategy. The strategy is this. Ariel Sharon goes into Masjid al-Aqsa with 1,000 Israeli military with him, with their shoes on, with the full knowledge that this calculated act of extreme provocation must have a response, a fiery response. And as the flames of the new intifada emerge, you must keep it burning by committing upon the Palestinian people more and more atrocities that drive them into a greater and greater rage. This is planning, this is strategy, this is not happening by accident.
And we need to go back to our legal definitions. Are we under occupation or not, Krishna? Are we a people under occupation? Do you know what the British government designate our territory? You know the official legal name that the Foreign Office here designate for us? The OPT. You know what's the OPT? The Occupied Palestinian Territory. So we are occupied, right? The question is, in such situation, an occupier, Israel, a colonizer, Israel, a besieger, Israel, and an occupied, oppressed people. Can you call this a war? Do you have two armies to even use the term war? No. What you need to use, and go back to the UN, go back to international legal experts. This is an oppression, a repression, like that of white South African apartheid regime. A suppression against people who are suppressed. So war does not happen in such dynamics. That's number one. Number two, who has the right to defend themselves in such situation? Is it the occupier or the occupied? Think with me. For so long, the world has adopted terminologies and words that have led to the killing of our children, that have flipped things upside down. For decades, it's we who have the right to defend itself, not the occupier. And if it is an occupier, there is the 4 Geneva Convention that our humanity created. So if you are operating an occupation, it is your full responsibility as an occupier to provide full protection for civilians and services. Services, education, health, what have you, to the occupied people. Does Israel ever in its history abide by these rules? And then we sit here and we discuss this Palestinian group, and then 10 years ago, that Palestinian group, and then Israel goes and invades Lebanon, remember in the 80s, because of Fatah, the national movement, and Yasser Arafat. History is repeating itself.
Well, let's just
because we do not want to focus on the root cause.
Let's just come to
the root cause is Israel's illegal military, colonial military occupation. You think Hamas created the Arab-Israeli conflict? Or you think the Arab-Israeli conflict created Hamas? Which one? It's conflicts that create these groups. Of course. Right? So let's not keep focusing 100% of our time on the group.
Because if one were to see
the situation that is on the ground with Israeli bombs that are there for 20 days against the helpless Palestinian people, with 7,000 men, women and small children, half of them children, killed by Israel in the last 20 days. 17,000 injured. 1.1 million Palestinians displaced. The enormity of the crimes that are being committed by Israel against the Palestinian people are so great and enormous that it is amazing that when my friend from Canada insists on naming the organization Hamas, that he does not feel the need for the equity and balance and fairness for which Canada is so well known. He does not feel the need to name Israel for killing 7,000 Palestinians and injuring 17,000. Only Hamas. Is this balance? He says what needs to be named has to be named. We believe Israel needs to be named. If you are fair, if you are equitable, if you are just, you will not blame one side and not the other. And if you were to go back to the issue of who started this, we all know who started this. It is a 50 years of Israeli occupation and the murder and killing of Palestinians with impunity that started this. When you push a people into the corner, they will respond. This is what the Secretary General said. It did not happen in a vacuum. And look at the reaction that came from the Israeli representative, insulting the Secretary General, calling for his resignation. They can't face the truth. They can't face justice. They can't face the fact that the crime has originated with the Israelis. The Israeli occupation is the original sin in this case. It is not what happened on the 7th of October. That is the proximate cause. But the real cause is the occupation of Palestine.
Israel has the right to defend itself. It's like saying Jimmy Savile, the prolific child rapper, has a right to defend himself when the child scratched him while he was it. Would you ever utter such a thing? Would you ever agree to such a concept? As vile and as disgusting as that is, this is your support for Israel. When you say Israel has a right to defend itself, you're saying that the perpetrator, the instigator, the propagator, the rapper, the abuser, the murderer has a right to defend themselves? This is insanity! I tell you, this is insanity! And shame on you if you make such and utter such comments. Shame on you. You are dead. Your soul is dead. You have no heart.
But Israel has a PhD in deception. Because it's Dajjal at the back of this, the mastermind.
Hearts of stone.